Hello everyone and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, let's go ahead and learn about IAM or Identity and Access Management, and also we'll learn how to set up a multi-factor authentication to increase our level of security within our account. If you guys remember, in the previous lesson, we learned about service limits. We also learned how to increase our limits as well. We navigated to EC2, if you guys remember. We went to limits. We selected here our, if you guys remember, our SageMaker notebook instances. And then we requested a GPU instance, which was the ML P2 16x large. We actually made the request for 2, and we submitted the request, and we're just waiting basically to hear back right now from AWS. Okay, so what I wanted to do right now is I wanted to show you guys the identity and access management. And AWS Identity and Access Management allows users to securely access and manage AWS services. So IAM or Identity and Access Management controls who is authenticated and who is authorized to use AWS services and resources. So the question is, what is the difference between authentication and authorization? Well, authentication means who can log in to the account. For example, if you have your Facebook account, let's say, and you know your username and password, if you enter your username and password, now you are authenticated to access your account because now you can log in to your account basically. But logging in into the account does not mean much here in AWS because you can log in, but you can't, let's say, view billing. Or maybe you only have access to, let's say, EC2, and maybe you are limited with the number of instances that you have within EC2, for example. And that's where authorization comes into play. So authorization means what can be done inside a given AWS account. So authentication is when you log in, and then once you log in, what can you actually do once you are logged in? That's the authorization. And IAM is a free global service, so you don't need to define any region. If you guys remember, we learned about various AWS regions and availability zones. And when you use IAM or Identity and Access Management, you actually don't need to define a region, basically, because it's a global service. IAM allows you to create AWS users and groups and deny them access to AWS services. And actually we have a slide here coming up to show you guys what do I mean by that. And please note that up until this moment, we have been able to sign up for AWS using our email address, if you guys remember, and we created our password. When we do that, that means we have used what we call the AWS root account. So the root account is the account you create using your email address and password. Please note, and this is very dangerous, I would say, the root account has full administrative access, and it's very, very risky to use it at all times. So basically what we have been doing so far is quite risky, and that's why I'm going to show you today how to create basically an IAM user who doesn't have full administrative access. The risk with that is because if someone has access to your email and your password, they can easily go in and they can maybe start mining cryptocurrency, for example, and you will end up with a huge bill. Or maybe they run like GPU instances and do like, train maybe machine learning models, and they can run it for months, for example, and you will end up with a huge bill. And that's why it's highly, strongly recommended to not use your root account that you created, basically the account with, which is your username, your email and your password. So AWS recommends to never use the root user for everyday work. And that's why instead we are going to create an IAM user and then lock away the root user credentials. And what we're going to do as well for extra level of security is we are going to use multi-factor authentication or MFA, and we're going to do that to increase our level of security as well. Please, if you click on this link here, you should be able to see a lot of details related to the AWS account root user here again within the documentation for AWS. And you should be able to see that here the recommendations is that we strongly recommend that you do not use a root user account for your everyday tasks and administrative, even the administrative ones, you need to kind of as best practices to create your first IAM user. And that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to basically not allow like full administrative access and billing and everything within our IAM user. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and show you guys what do I mean by identity and access management from a very high level. So what I have here is I have my root user. This is simply what we have done so far. We used our email and password for the original sign up by the root user, okay? This here, and that's kind of the evil guy per se, we have access to everything, right? They have access to billing, they have access to every single service, every single resource, and this is very dangerous to do everyday work in here. And that's what I list here. Root user account has full privileges, and it's the one we signed up for with our email and password. And that's why, as one of the best practices, is within the same AWS account, of course, I'm gonna have my root user, but what we're gonna do is we're going to create multiple IAM users within that account. For example, I'm going to have an IAM user 1, and that will be an administrative one, similar to the root user, but they have a little bit less, basically, access. They have less power compared to the root user. And that will be the first one. All AWS services, for example, that will be an administrative one. And then I'm going to have another IAM user. I'm going to call it IAM user 2. Maybe these are for managers, for example. Let's say in an organization, they worry about the billing dashboard. They worry about the money aspect of things. We can also have another IAM user for, let's say, engineers. They don't have access to the billing. They don't care about billing. Here they care about, let's say, Lambda, for example. Maybe they want to access SageMaker. They wanted to access EC2 and S3, for example, and that's it. They don't have access to billing, for example. And that's where we can have access to multiple levels of users within the exact same account. Okay? All right. So here, again, I've included snapshots for you guys. If you guys wanted to basically follow along here every single step into creating our first IAM user. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to the AWS Management Console and show you guys the demo live right now. Okay, so if you go back here, you will see that we have the AWS Management Console here. And I want you guys to go and search for IAM, or Identity and Access Management, and that is going to open IAM here for you. All right, so what you guys could see right now is I have my IAM, or Identity and Access Management homepage. And on the left-hand side, you will see users. So if you click on users, you will see that we don't have any users yet. So let's go ahead and start to add our first user. So I'm gonna say add user. And that is going to navigate me to a new here page. I need to give it a name. So for example, I'm going to call that user, let's say my first name and last name. You guys can go ahead and use your name, your first name and last name, or any other name you want. And here I need to specify or give here a specific password, for example. I'm gonna say yes. So I'm gonna say here, I need to specify a password. And I'm going to give it a custom password, and then I'm going to write my password here, okay? So that will be the password that I'm going to use to access my user here, which is my new user that I just created. So let's say you give it a password, okay? So this looks good. And then what you need to do next is that you need to click on permissions. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on next permissions. And then afterwards, let's close that. And then what you need to do right now is now you have your user, you created your first user, but this user right now doesn't have any permissions. So now we need to give that specific user's permissions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say attach existing policies directly. And please note that these are different policies that are available for you. So for example, let's assume that I want to have that new user, my user like Ryan Ahmed, for example here, to have maybe access to, let's say, Alexa services, for example. I can go ahead and choose some of these AWS managed policies. So these are policies to give specific access to that specific user. So for example, and we're gonna show you guys that in the next couple of lectures, is we'll learn about Lambda, for example, and sometimes I wanted to give specific users access to invoke, let's say, Lambda functions. So I can go ahead, search here, for example, for Lambda, and then you should be able to see that here I have many policies that are available for you. So for example, AWS Lambda full access, for example. Or if you wanted to only read only, or maybe have basic execution role, for example. Or maybe if you wanted to have Lambda to be able to, let's say, record data to CloudWatch. Many available options for you here. So what I'm gonna do is for that specific role, I'm going to give it administrative access. Basically, I wanted to give it full administrative access for that specific basic role. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to select basically administrative access or administrator access. If you guys click here on that arrow, you should be able to see the actual policy in here. And please note, I don't want it to be confused. It's here. You should be able to see the actual policy here in JSON format. From a very high level, basically it's telling you, go ahead and the effect is going to be allow. And I'm going to allow that specific user access to every resource. So asterisk here means just everything. And the action will be everything. If you want to read, if you want to write, if you want to do whatever, basically allow everything to that specific user using that policy, which is the administrator access policy. So I'm going to say, well, that's good. Let's go ahead and click on next. And now I need to specify tags, okay? So let's say for that specific user, I can maybe add, let's say the key is going to be their job title, for example, and the value is going to be, let's say, administrator. I can maybe add another, let's say, value here. Again, I'm talking about the new user that I'm creating right now. Maybe I'm going to include their email address here. So I'm going to say their email. And I'm going to say AWS ML engineer, and that's the email that I used to sign up for the service, for the account, okay? Looks pretty good. And then I'm gonna say next, review. And here we go. What you guys see is now I have a new username. That's Ryan Ahmed, for example. Here you will see the access. You should be able to see the password, which is a custom, which is the password that I set basically beforehand. And you should be able to see the tags as well. The job title is admin and the email is the email that I used in here. And you can go ahead and click on create user, and that is going to create the user for you. And congratulations, success. Now we have been able to create our first identity and access management user. And now I have an additional level of security within my account, and that's pretty amazing. All right, so what you guys could see right now is you should be able to see that you successfully created the user shown below, and you can view and download the user security credentials. So please, I strongly recommend that you guys download the CSV file and hide it somewhere. Basically, that's where your credential is. So I'm going to as well save it and keep it somewhere else. And please note that right now you have a new link here, this link, where you can access your AWS Management Console with your new user that you just created. So if you guys click on it, you should be able to see that right now it's opening in a new tab. And if you guys go back here, you will notice that now you have been basically signed out from your account. Because now what's going to happen is I can access here my the account using my IAM username. So let's go ahead and see if that works. So I can go ahead and change that, and I can go ahead and write the username that I've chosen, which is Ryan Ahmed here. And I'm going to type in the password as well that I chose. Okay. And then I'm going to say, please go ahead and sign in. And that is here is asking me, okay, what is your old password and what is your new password, and retype your new password as well. This is kind of an additional level of security. So now you need to change your original password that you specified before, and that will be the password you are going to use to log in to your new IAM user account that you created here before. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to select here my old password. And then I'm going to type here my new password. And I'm going to retype the password again. And then I'm going to say confirm password change, and that is going to confirm that change for me. And here we go, congratulations. Now you guys have been able to simply sign in to your account right now. And then now I'm signed in with my new IAM user, which is Ryan Ahmed here, okay? And that's pretty good. That means right now I'm not signing in with my root credentials. And this is very important because now I have an additional, again, level of security. What I wanted to do right now is I wanted to show you guys how to set up MFA or multi-factor authentication. All right, so let me show you how we can do this. If you navigate again to IAM or Identity and Access Management, if you click on it, and next I'm gonna go ahead and navigate to my users on the left-hand side. Now I should be able to see that new user that we created before. If you click on it, you will see that right now you can add an additional level of security, and that is the security credentials in here. If you click on it, you should be able to see right now that I have a signed MFA device or multi-factor authentication device. This is not assigned. So let's go ahead and maybe do that. So if you click on manage, and you should be able to see that there are many areas here or many types of MFA devices you can use. You can use virtual MFA device on your mobile device, for example, and I strongly recommend to use that, especially if you have like a smartphone, like an iPhone or Samsung or whatever. And then you have another type as well, which is the U2F security key. Don't worry about it. And if you have a hardware multi-factor authentication device, like a token, for example, you can choose that as well. I'm gonna go ahead and choose the virtual MFA device, and please go ahead and click on continue. And what you guys see here is you will need to go ahead to your cell phone. And I want you guys to please go ahead and download this app here. And let me show you the app. I took a snapshot of the app that I strongly recommend that you guys use. And this is simply the Microsoft Authenticator. This should be the logo here or the sign that you would need to download. So you will need to download that basically, okay, on your phone. And then you're gonna say show QR code. And then with your cell phone, you go ahead, you scan here this screen, okay, this MFA basically QR code. And then you need to enter here the two codes consecutively, okay? So for example, on my application, okay, I'm gonna open the authenticator. So I'm gonna open the authenticator on my app, for example, right now. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take basically, click on personal account. And then I'm gonna say scan QR code. And now I scanned my QR code, for example. And now I can go ahead and I need to insert here two MFA codes that appear consecutively. So basically every 30 seconds, a new MFA code will appear on your app. So right now, for example, I have my first code, okay? I'm just gonna type it down here. So let's say the first code was this one here, for example. And then the second code, this is again, these are random numbers in here, okay? And here we go. These again, random numbers. And then you say assign MFA, and that is going to log me into my account. And now I'm gonna have my virtual multi-factor authentication device set up. And that's pretty much it for MFA authentication setup. All right, so once you enter your basically two MFA codes and you click continue, you should be able to see that you have successfully assigned virtual MFA, and that's great. And then you say close. And now pretty much when you log into your account again, so let's go ahead and maybe say sign out. And now if I would like to sign in again to my account, I will need to say sign in to the console. And then I need to here specify the account ID. Okay, and this is the same account ID we used before. And now I need to specify the IAM username, the password, and I need to insert as well a code from my Authenticator app to allow me to log into my account. So let me show you how we can sign into the account. Here I have the account ID, and now I'm gonna go ahead and type my IAM username, which is Ryan Ahmed that we used before. And then now I need to specify the password, okay? So I'm just gonna write the new password that we specified before, and then I'm gonna say sign in. And now what you guys see is asking me for an MFA code. And again, on my authenticated app, you should be able to see a code that appears every 30 seconds. So you need to go ahead from your cell phone, copy that code, whatever code that you're getting, okay? And then you click on submit, and here we go. Now we have been able to sign in to the account, and I signed in with my IAM role, okay? All right, so that's it. That's simply all I have for this lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And that simply concludes our project for today. It was pretty, I would say, straightforward, and we just wanted to sign up for the service. We learned how to navigate the AWS Management Console. We learned about the identity and access management as well. And that's pretty much all I have. I hope you guys enjoyed this lecture, and see you guys tomorrow.